Tonight on Bridge City News, the out-of-control wildfire near High Level has now grown to over 100,000 hectares. We have the latest. The City of Lethbridge wants feedback from local residents on 18 large projects the city has ongoing, including the new recycling initiative. And 2 former high-profile Liberal MPs have decided to run as independents.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Fire officials hope their preparation over the last few days will protect High Level from shifting winds, which began yesterday. The out-of-control wildfire has now grown to over 100,000 hectares. Preparations included a controlled burn to cut off a potential path of fire into the town. Close to 5,000 people were told to leave a week ago. The provincial government has said it would compensate each of the evacuees with $1,250 in debit cards to help cover off some of their immediate expenses. A special air quality statement was issued, warning that communities in the northern part of the province may experience heavy smoke from the fires. An emergency alert has been issued for the town of Trout Lake as well because of a wildfire burning 14 kilometers southeast of that community. A cold front was expected to arrive today, bringing more dry air and variable winds that officials say will add fuel to the fires already burning. Back in 2011 and 2012, Lethbridge had 2 major grass fires that threatened our city. Soon after, the Lethbridge Fire Department applied for a number of provincial grants to highlight the areas of concern. Ainsley O'Reilly explains what is currently being done to prevent potential wildfires in our city.
It was a blaze that scared many people on the west side back in 2011, and the Fire and Emergency Services team wanted to get on top of things. Lethbridge recently applied for a provincial grant to serve vegetation management projects.
Designated just for wildfires. So, and it can't be capital projects, it's just anything for prevention, the side of prevention of things.
With the wind and dry heat in southern Alberta, the coulees are one spot that needs extra care.
Obviously a designated area that they've spotlighted, and not just the entire coulee area, but there are just certain areas that encroach up onto residential areas that concern us, that come out of the coulees. So veg management is definitely a control that we would like to put in place ASAP.
As many people know, Lethbridge West is growing, and the coulees are a metropolis of activity and infrastructure. The city wants you to be aware of the dangers.
Just knowing the risks, so knowing that it can actually happen. So with that in mind, keep adhering to fire bans that we might have in place, or taking part in putting out your cigarette butts in a proper manner. Ultimately, it's doing things that you can to restrict the fire from starting, mitigate that from an individual perspective, but also if you need to leave your home quickly, making sure you're ready to do that as well, and adhering to recommendations from local authorities.
Bottom line, put your cigarette butts out. For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
It is your turn to once again get involved in a citywide discussion called Community Conversations. The city wants to know what it can offer residents, what role it plays in the region, and how to plan for the future.
It's about how the city is inclusive in terms of people with physical limitations, if you like, and so it'll be, what advice can they offer us? What things can we do for people who are visually impaired, people who maybe have hearing difficulties as well, people who have mobility issues. So how is the city responding? What are the next steps? Are there best practices that we can adopt here in the city of Lethbridge?
Community Conversations takes place this Wednesday, May 29th from 2 till 6 at CASA. The event will showcase 18 different upcoming projects on the go. The city of Lethbridge is encouraging all local organizations, businesses, and residents to attend. A $500 million 400-megawatt solar power plant. That is what one Southern Alberta energy company hopes to build in Vulcan County. Green Gate put in the application to the Alberta Utilities Commission to build a solar power plant on 4,700 acres of private land near the Traverse Reservoir. Dan Balaban is the president and CEO of Green Gate out of Calgary. He explains what a solar plant in Vulcan County could mean for Southern Albertans.
A project of this size will roughly provide power to 100,000 homes. This project will provide power to a good chunk of southern Alberta. If anything, should contribute to lower power bills for Albertans because solar energy is extremely cost effective. It'll be by far the largest solar project in the country, one of the top 10 largest solar projects anywhere in the world, which I think really speaks to the quality of Alberta as a place to invest.
Bella Ben also says that Alberta's combination of sunny days and cooler weather makes it a better place than Florida to invest in for solar power. The Galt Museum will be showcasing Places and Traces. It is a special exhibit about Lethbridge as a community. As Loris Alexander discovered, the collaboration between the Galt Museum and the Lethbridge Historical Society brought about a few unexpected surprises.
We explore some of the unique aspects of the neighborhoods that people may not be familiar with and that may not be immediately visible on the landscape. Just as an example, in one area in sort of the Glendale-Dieppe Lakeview area, there was an asparagus farm, and there's apparently still asparagus that grows in some of the areas around that neighborhood. So that's an example of some of the traces of the past that are still visible, but maybe people wouldn't know very much about to see it. So we also, in addition to the history, we brought in some more contemporary kind of voices by asking people out in their neighborhoods what makes their neighborhood special. And so we've got some of those stories included as a way of making people think about their own connections to their place.
One of the things that I personally found kind of surprising was that there are parts of our community that existed in the past that no longer exist in the same way that they did. For example, the communities that were down in the river bottom for decades, and because of flooding, those houses were demolished and those people moved up on top of the coulees where the rest of the city is now. And that's something that you can't find a lot of traces of except in archival footage and newspaper stories from the 20s and 30s.
If you're curious about how things got here and why, the Places and Traces exhibit is open until September 8th. For more information, please visit thegaltmuseum.com. For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
We are expecting some incredibly warm temperatures in the city this week. A refreshing sight is the City of Lethbridge spray parks, which are now open. The Rotary Centennial Fountain is located in the southeast corner of Galt Gardens, and Gyro Spray Park is behind Nicholas Sharon Arena. They are free for all visitors to enjoy. Both spray parks will remain open until the September long weekend. Gyro is open from 10 till 8 p.m. daily, and the Rotary Centennial Fountain is open from 10 till 10. The Sun Life and Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation walk took place over the weekend at Nicholas Sharon Park. It was to raise money for research to help cure insulin-dependent diabetes.
There's about 300,000 people that live with type 1 diabetes in Canada. We say about 2,300 school-aged children here in Alberta. And we've been doing the Sun Life Walk to Cure Diabetes for JDRF in Lethbridge for over 10 years. And everyone came together today in the community. It was a great day. We had over 200 walkers and raised over $25,000, which will go towards type 1 research and JDRF's mission to cure, treat, and prevent type 1 diabetes.
Cystic Fibrosis held their 15th annual walk on Sunday at Henderson Lake Park. Across Canada, the various walks raised close to $1.5 million. CF affects the lungs, pancreas, liver, kidneys, and intestine, but researchers made a significant impact. In the 1960s, a child with cystic fibrosis only had an average life expectancy of 4. Today, people with CF can live past the age of 50. After the weekend walk, participants wound things down with a barbecue and lots of great music. This is the time of year when parents make plans to send their kids to summer camp. John Gartley is the executive director of the Southern Alberta Bible Camp, and he says their group offers kids an incredible experience because there's so much to do.
You know, these kids, like, they catch these fish, and it's just that some of these kids, they never go fishing. And they come, they catch this fish, and it's unbelievable. We got a partnership with Water Ski Wakeboard Alberta, so we do water ski wakeboarding out there. We do kayaking, canoeing, lots of swimming because it gets pretty hot out there, and we even do some sailing programs. So, I mean, a lot of our program, it's kind of the centerpiece of the camp. There's that lake is right there, and we just want to use it. It's just God-given, you know, like, there it is. It's amazing.
Catch the full interview with John talking about how they reach Kids for Christ coming up in the second half of our show. 2 people died and 1 person is in life-threatening condition after what police describe as a contained explosion at a Calgary home. Police say the blast occurred yesterday afternoon and appears to have occurred in the garage. Investigators believe the fire was not accidental and the incident is domestic related. They say they are not seeking any suspects. Federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer brought his call for a national energy corridor to Calgary. Scheer compared it to the Canadian Pacific Railway, the Trans-Canada Highway, and the St. Lawrence Seaway. He says he has a plan which features 6 important points.
We have a 6-point action plan that will strike down the barriers Justin Trudeau has created on these projects and create the right conditions for investment, approvals, and construction. First, we will cancel the carbon tax. Like Premier Kenney, I have promised that the first bill I table will be an act to repeal the carbon tax. Second, we will repeal Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill. The Senate has made some changes to this bill, but we have little hope that Justin Trudeau will allow these amendments to pass. Third, if the Senate hasn't already done this and the House has, if the government has not imposed this upon Canadians, we will end the ban on shipping traffic in British Columbia. And fourth, to bring back certainty and investor confidence, we will establish clear timelines for regulatory approvals and will ensure that we do Indigenous consultations right up front in the right way. Fifth, we will make sure that the approval process rests wholly in the hands of Canadians by banning foreign-funded advocacy groups from participating in the regulatory process. And 6, we will assert federal jurisdiction where necessary.
Former Justice Minister and Liberal MP Jody Wilson-Raybould has announced that she will be running as an independent in the upcoming federal election. Wilson-Raybould was shuffled out of her ministerial role in a move she believes was motivated by her handling of a request to intervene in the criminal prosecution of SNC-Lavalin. Former Liberal MP Jane Philpott also says she'll be running as an independent this October. Philpott resigned from cabinet in March over Trudeau's handling of the affair. Both she and Wilson-Raybould were later kicked out of caucus. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran wants to make a deal. At a news conference in Tokyo earlier today, Trump says Iran's economy has taken a major hit since he pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal and implemented sanctions.
Look what happened since I terminated the Iran deal. Look what has happened to Iran. Iran, when I first came into office, was a terror. They were fighting in many locations all over the Middle East. They were behind every single major attack, whether it was Syria, whether it was Yemen, whether it was individual smaller areas, whether it was taking away oil from people. They were involved with everything. Now they're pulling back because they've got serious economic problems. We have massive, as you know, massive sanctions and other things. I mean, we just said the other day, steel, copper, different elements of what they used to sell. The oil is essentially dried up. And I'm not looking to hurt Iran at all. I'm looking to have Iran say, no nuclear weapons. We have enough problems in this world right now with nuclear weapons. No nuclear weapons.
Another tornado has hit Oklahoma. This one leveled a motel and destroyed a mobile home park near Oklahoma City, killing 2 people and leaving 29 others injured.
Pray for the families. People have absolutely lost everything. You're not going to believe the devastation. You've seen some of the pictures of those poor families that were in that trailer house. Pray for our citizens. El Reno is a resilient community. You know, we've been through this before with our experience. We just have come off a flood the last week. It's been very trying for us and our community. But I'm going to tell you, the people of El Reno are the strongest people I've ever met in Oklahoma. I'm not just saying it because I'm a 4th-generation El Renoite.
A California man has died after being attacked by a shark in Maui, Hawaii. Witnesses say the 65-year-old man was pulled ashore missing a leg. Warning signs were posted after the shark attack.
They pulled the man up. He looked unconscious when they transferred him to the other gurney, and we could see that they were trying to do CPR on him. It was really traumatic to see.
Thanks to the prayers of so many people, a much-needed state-of-the-art hospital was built for the poor in the Peruvian Andes. A German missionary doctor, Klaus Dieter John, explains how badly it was needed.
Talk about the impact that the hospital is having on the lives of people in Peru.
The hospital was founded in 2007, so it has been up and running for 11 years. We have served so far 330,000 patients, but they've come with their friends and relatives. So 500,000 Peruvians have been exposed to a hospital. We start every morning with a church service. So we have celebrated 3,000 church services, and 500,000 Peruvians have listened to the story of the cross of Christ, the empty tomb, hope in eternal life. And we have served the poor almost all of the patients, let's say at least 80% are poor people, Quechua people, descendants of the Incas. They live under conditions very miserable. Many have no running water, no electricity. And they come to a hospital that has equipment you have right here in Virginia Beach or in Washington or in Orlando, very modern hospital.
How many people have accepted Christ walking through the facilities?
I can't quote you exact numbers, but we have 2 pastors, full employed. We know that 500,000 Peruvians have listened to the message of the gospel. And our second pastor, who used to be a truck addict in the streets, always preparing his cigarettes, his joints, and then one day he found this nice book with pages for 1,200 joints, and he told the first page and started reading. It was the Bible, obviously, and he became a committed Christian, and he has been working with us now for almost 5 years.
The crown jewel of junior hockey was handed out last night as the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies beat the Halifax Mooseheads 4-2 to capture the Memorial Cup. Here's some post-game reaction after a thrilling championship game to cap off the 2019 Major Junior Hockey season.
Yeah, amazing feeling. I know, honestly, I have no words to describe the feeling after tonight. The 20 guys in our dressing room, we pushed the same way for a solid 90 games this year, and I couldn't be prouder of them. I went to the doctor, he diagnosed me with mono, and I couldn't do anything about it. But the guys, they pulled together, they all stuck together, and they let me have another chance to play. Honestly, me, Sam Harvey, and Jake, I couldn't be prouder of us three. We stuck together. We were drafted here. We stuck together, and we're the proudest guys to wear this logo on our chest. So I'm so happy for all of them and for me as well. So I hope we have a good time.
For the first time in their history, the Toronto Raptors are headed to the NBA Finals. The team disposed of the Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games to win the Eastern Division crown over the weekend. Raptors head coach Nick Nurse says he couldn't be more proud of his team, especially his superstar, Kawhi Leonard.
I told the team before the game, I said, I don't know a lot, but I know you guys have earned every bit of being in this game on your home floor, you know, and they have been diligent, they've been smart, they've been really tough, right? To beat this team 4 times in a row, to me, like, I'm more proud that we just kept growing and kept hanging in there and kind of always believed. To accomplish, you know, what we've done, winning the Eastern Conferences, you got to really, truly believe you can do it. There's a lot of good teams in the East, but we're right up there. And Kawhi is like, I don't know how many more good things I can say about him, right? I mean, he's just so good. And again, I'm seeing a level of competitive greatness out of him. I mean, it's just his willing us to win and him grabbing those rebounds and willing those shots in almost, it seems like, and going down and locking up somebody and taking the ball from them. It's great competitive desire.
Game 1 between the Toronto Raptors and the Western Conference champs Golden State Warriors begins Thursday in Toronto. It was on this day that the Golden Gate Bridge opens to the public. The British Navy sinks the legendary German battleship the Bismarck, and actor Christopher Reeve is paralyzed. This is Today in History for May the 27th.
May 27th, 1937. The newly completed Golden Gate Bridge opens to the public, connecting San Francisco and Marin County, California. For the bridge's first day, only pedestrians were allowed onto the span. Louis Reggiardo helped build the famous suspension bridge.
Nothing more thrilling to me than to get on one end of the bridge of my car and drive through and see these towers, how they stand up, how majestically against the sky, how wonderful it is.
1999. A UN tribunal in the Netherlands indicts Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic and 4 of his aides for war crimes in Kosovo. 2 years later, Milosevic is arrested and handed over to the tribunal. In 2006, he's found dead in his prison cell while still on trial. 1941. During World War II, the British Navy sinks Nazi Germany's battleship Bismarck off the coast of France. 1936. The Queen Mary, one of the world's great ocean liners, leaves England on its maiden voyage. The ship, part of the Cunard Line, is now retired, serving as a hotel and conference center in Long Beach, California. And 1995.
If you think the game is worthwhile, then you just play the hand you're dealt. Sometimes you get a lot of face cards, sometimes you don't. But I think the game's worthwhile, I really do.
Actor Christopher Reeve is paralyzed when he's thrown from his horse during an equestrian event in Charlottesville, Virginia. Reeve, best known for playing Superman on the silver screen, dies more than 9 years later. Today in History, May 27th. Camille Bohannon, The Associated Press.
Another beautiful spring-like day today. Did you get a chance to head outside? It'll feel more like summer later this week. Complete weather details are coming up. We had lots of sunshine and warm temperatures today. Tonight, just a few clouds with a low near 4 degrees. Mainly sunny tomorrow with a high expected near 23. Sunshine at 24 degrees is on tap for Wednesday. The mercury will climb even higher to 28 degrees on Thursday. Clouds return on Friday, and we should see a daytime high near 21. Saturday warming up to 28 once again. Sunday, a mixture of sun and cloud, and a high again near 28 degrees. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 20 and an average low of 6. The highest temperature on this date was recorded in 1986 at 31 degrees, and a record low was -2 in 2005. Sunrise was at 5:33, sunset at 9:24. Looking at temperatures across the country for tomorrow now, Victoria will be mainly sunny at 19, partly cloudy at 21 for Vancouver. Sunshine at 25 is on tap for Calgary on Tuesday. Even warmer for Edmonton, as a high of 29 is in the forecast. Mainly sunny at 26 degrees for Regina tomorrow. A mixture of sun and cloud at 27 for Saskatoon. Winnipeg should be mainly sunny at 23. Toronto will have some thunder shower activity and a high of 16. Ottawa will also receive rain tomorrow and a high near 15. Showers off and on and a high as well near 15 for Montreal tomorrow. In the Maritimes, Fredericton, New Brunswick will be mainly sunny at 18. Halifax, Nova Scotia will be partly cloudy at 16. Charlottetown, PEI will be mainly sunny at 13. And St. John's, Newfoundland will have rain and a high of 5 degrees on Tuesday. Canadian Utilities is selling off all of its natural gas-fired and coal-fired electricity generation assets in Alberta, BC, and Ontario. The deal with Heartland Generation includes 11 partly or fully owned assets. Canadian Utilities also signed an agreement to sell its 50% stake in the Corey Cogeneration Station near Saskatoon to Sask Power International. The subsidiary of ATCO says the agreements to sell are worth around $835 million. Saskatchewan's agriculture minister is adding his voice to those calling on Ottawa to compensate canola farmers. David Merritt says he's disappointed that loan limits have not come through, echoing recent comments from the federal Tories. The Trudeau government has said it will increase those limits to $1 million amid Canada's trade dispute with China. Ontario has announced it will participate in a national class action lawsuit over the opioid crisis. BC launched the suit against more than 40 opioid manufacturers and wholesalers. It alleges the companies were negligent in how they researched, developed, and marketed highly addictive painkillers in the 1990s. Ontario government officials say they plan to introduce legislation allowing it to join the lawsuit. Any proceeds from the litigation will be spent on frontline mental health and addiction services. Fiat Chrysler is proposing a merger with French carmaker Renault. It is hoped the collaboration will save both companies billions of dollars. The merger would create the world's third largest automaker and be 50% owned by FCA shareholders and 50% by Renault shareholders. The companies have been in talks for weeks as car makers are looking to save money as the industry pivots to electric and autonomous vehicles. Renault's board met outside of Paris earlier today about the potential merger. Now, here's a look at today's markets. We have some breaking news for you. Medicine Hat police say a 39-year-old woman was found dead inside of a charitable donation bin in the Gas City. Police say EMS were called about a woman who got stuck or trapped, and when they arrived, she was dead. The provincial coroner's office is investigating to determine the cause of death. So how are summer camps used to reach kids for Christ? John Gartley, the executive director of the Southern Alberta Bible Camp, has details next. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Enjoy a cultural experience and take a taste of Bhutan, taking place Friday, May 31st at the Multicultural Center in Lethbridge. This event is presented by the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association and the Canadian Bhutanese Society. Dinner is served at 6:30 p.m., followed by music and dance performances. Cost is $20 for adults, $12 per child, and tickets must be purchased in advance. Tickets are available at the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association office or go online to saea.ca. If you love the game of golf, get involved and be a volunteer at the second annual Lethbridge Paradise Canyon Open, a Mackenzie Tour PGA Tour Canada event, June 17th to the 23rd. There are a number of positions needed to be filled, and you'll gain the experience of being a part of a professional golf tournament. To learn more about volunteering for this event, visit lfsfamily.ca. Do you or someone you love have a gambling problem? Is it causing chaos to your life and relationships? Gamblers Anonymous holds weekly meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 408 13th Street North. For more information and meeting times, call 403-331-0822. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
Summer will be here before you know it. And with that comes summer camps for our kids. Joining me now in studio to chit-chat a bit about it is John Gartley, the Executive Director of Southern Alberta Bible Camp. Welcome to Bridge City News, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, Hal.
So let's talk a bit about, I love summer camp when I was a kid. We had so much fun, archery, canoeing, all the hiking. What goes on with the Southern Alberta Bible Camp?
Well, we're right on the Trevor's Reservoir. So there's a beautiful lake there. I mean, the property was given to us in 1981 by the Ruggles family, and there's not a stick on it, but we have kids that come. We run camps for 1,700 kids every summer. They come, they start on Sunday night, and they go till Friday night, and they live in a cabin full of 8 kids their own age, and it's full of activities all week long.
Now, you guys are located in Lomond, Alberta, not far from a lake there. So tell me about some of the fun marine activities that the kids partake in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's canoeing, fishing. I never would have thought it, but fishing is actually one of the favorite skills there. I mean,
what kind of fish?
Activities? Man, I'm not a fisherman,
Trout,
but there's
salmon, pickerel?
No, there's no salmon. But there's perch out there. There's walleye. There's jackfish and whitefish for sure. So, but these kids, they catch these fish, and it's just some of these kids, they never go fishing. They come, they catch this fish, and it's unbelievable. We got a partnership with Water Ski Wakeboard Alberta, so we do water ski wakeboarding out there. We do kayaking, canoeing, lots of swimming because it gets pretty hot out there, and we even do some sailing programs. So, I mean, a lot of our program, it's kind of the centerpiece of the camp. That lake is right there, and we just want to use it. It's just God-given, there it is. It's amazing.
Now, John, this is a Christian camp. Do you ever have non-Christian campers who come out as well?
Yeah, so of our 1,700 kids, fully, probably, I know 2/3 of our kids actually don't attend church on a regular basis, and fully 1/3 don't attend church at all. And so they come to Southern Alberta Bible Camp. And it's a neat opportunity that we have because we're very clear on what our mission is. We want to have a lot of fun with the kids, and we want to do all these activities that I explained before, but we also want to share the gospel. So it's an opportunity that we can share the gospel with every kid that comes. And I don't know, it's neat to see the Lord change lives through that.
So how about some of the kids that maybe are raised in Hindu homes, Muslim homes, or Buddhist homes? Yeah. Have they ever attended?
Well, it's funny. I had a call from a parent from Calgary who phoned me. He said his daughter had been invited to come to this Southern Alberta Bible Camp by a friend, and he said, "What is this about? Like, you're a Bible camp?" It was very clear on what it is, and so I was able to talk about who Jesus was and that he came and he died on the cross for our sins. It's all written in the Bible. He rose again, and that we might be saved. And he said, "That's the message we share. We don't get into a lot of the details about the differences, but we just want to share about this person of Jesus." And the guy on the other end of the line, he just kind of said, "Sounds like a pretty good message. I think I'm going to send my kid to camp." So
wow, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the kids' lives that have been changed by attending the camp and gave their lives to Christ. Yeah.
Well, it's a story I've been telling recently. I actually just heard it about a month ago. Was a number of years ago. These 2 kids. siblings came to camp, and through that week, they through hearing the gospel message or the campfires or whatever, they became Christians. And they went home, and their dad overheard them praying in their room, "Lord, please help my parents to become Christians." And so he was a little bit upset about this because he didn't really know like what kind of indoctrination this camp did with their kids. Like, what are they praying? I'm fine, you know. But he made the decision in his head that he was going to figure out who this Jesus was. And so through his friends, and he did some, he did some seeking about who Jesus was. He became a Christian himself. And the later part of the story is that he actually mentored another individual who became a pastor in a church in one of our Southern Alberta churches. So it's kind of neat. Yeah.
Now, you've been involved with the Southern Alberta Bible Camp for about 28 years now?
28 years, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Over those years, did you ever receive pushback from parents who were non-believers, saying, my kid came home and they're brainwashed, I'm not happy? Anything like that? Do you ever receive anything like that? No?
We're a Bible camp, and that's what we are. We're not Southern Alberta Camp, right? We're not trying to hide that piece of it, and so it's on our web page, it's in all our writings, and the only pushback maybe, and this is what we train our staff, is they can get, some of our staff in the past can get very zealous and very strong, as far as this is you.
On fire for the Lord, right?
On fire for the Lord, and they've got good hearts, but the gospel just isn't presented in a very. Wasn't presented in a very good way. So we spent a lot of time talking to our staff. Listen, like, these kids are coming from homes that, they've been brought up a certain way, and they're coming to us for a week. And so what are we going to do? What kind of memories are we going to give them? We want to show them that they're loved. We want to tell them about Jesus, who loves them unconditionally, that he, again, and who he is, and introduce them to the Bible and what the Bible says. And then stories from our own lives, about how God changed our lives and how he works in our lives. And so we want those memories to go home with these kids and they're going back to those homes, right? And so it's a memory, it's a seed that's planted, and who knows down the road,
So tell me about some of those kids then, John, who gave their lives to Christ at camp and then became a shining beacon on the hill for their families.
Oh, man. Well, that was one that I shared already.
Right, yeah.
I got a good friend who's a pastor in BC now, but he came as a kid. He had ADHD, and his mom wasn't going to give him any pills, and he said, go to camp. So he came to camp, and he came over so many years, and he's been a blessing. He's been a blessing to so many. He's a good friend, and now he's just doing amazing things in BC in that church there, and telling other people about Jesus. So miss him, but he's a neat guy. So.
Other than the spiritual growth, what other things are taught to the children at the camp, how they're able to maybe become more independent and mature?
Well, they got to go away from their mom and dad, right? And so for them to say goodbye, sometimes we have to give counseling services to parents because it's almost harder for parents to let their kids go. But it's neat to see these kids. They come, they're able to stay overnight for 5 nights. They're able to build for friendships there that they haven't had before, like new friendships, and develop relationships with adults that are there that love them as well. And so, there's issues there. They can't go to mom all the time, and so they've got to solve some of these problems themselves. But we do a lot of activities too. We do, like I said, water ski, wakeboard, Alberta. So it isn't just, hey, get in a boat, put some skis on, we'll see if you get up. We've got coaches that are trained to coach these kids how to ski. And let's face it, not a lot of people have their own boats. And so they come to camp, they learn how to ski. We get all those kids up, and they ski, some of them for the very first time. Many come year after year. There's one kid, he's a very good skier. And our boat driver asked him, where do you ski? Do you ski and you get coached somewhere else? He says, I come here every summer. This is the only time I get to ski. And so he's learned that skill, which, it's just a fun skill, right? But it's something that he can succeed at and do well at, and it's a great memory.
And these camp counselors, they're all trained in the ladies with first aid?
Yes, all of them. All of them have first aid. we have a full-time nurse that's there all through the summer. We get volunteer nurses as well. In fact, this summer we have a full-fledged paramedic that's there this summer, all summer long. So,
how does the camp really help the kids with their self-esteem, John?
Well, you know, I think it's finding out who our identity is. You know, like there's that verse, Psalm 139, 13, 14. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. We're made by the creator of the universe. He made us. He formed us before we even were born. And helping kids to understand that. And I mean, we get them for a week, right? But knowing that they're loved, knowing that they're created special by the creator of the universe, knowing that, I mean, these kind of things, we really want them to know what their identity in Christ is, not just their identity and who they think they are.
One of the first camps I went to was in Kananaskis country. I had a lot of fun. We did horseback riding. We did so much, but I got homesick. I got to tell you, when I was little.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that with these children who've never been separated from their parents before?
Yeah, we lock them in a room and we don't deal with them for the week.
Sure, yeah, okay. As long as they have a Bible, that's the important thing.
No, it's a real thing, and it's a real sickness. You talk about homesickness, it's sickness. And again, our staff are trained to deal with that. There's lots of tricks that we do. We really work with parents, and so parents give us the kind of some help with that, and we want to kind of get their idea of their kids and what works for them.
You want them to feel at home and comfortable, right?
But we sure don't tell them that their parents miss them, and we sure don't talk to them about their parents and what they do at home. We talk to them, we try and keep their just what they're thinking about to what's going on throughout the week. And so, I mean, it doesn't happen. Not all kids stay there. I mean, we maybe one or two in a summer go home that just can't handle it, but.
What kind of a cost is there involved with this? And do you provide financial assistance for families who may be underprivileged?
It's about $400 for a week at camp. Maybe
what does that include?
Touch under everything. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say everything. Water ski, there'll be an extra charge for that, just for the guestling, but and for some of the coaching. There's a few things with some added costs, but if you wanted to come to camp and have a great, maybe not you, but you can come help. You can drive boat.
Yeah.
But to come, it's about $400. That includes all your food, housing, and all the activities that we provide. And so, and one of our values at the camp is that there's no child that will be not allowed to come because of financial reasons. And so, that's our board. That's something that they've said. We don't want that to be an inhibitor to kids coming. And so we've got funds set up. We've got actually a fundraising thing. Sorry for the shameless whatever, but it's next weekend. It's a ride for a reason. We're riding around Waterton, 120 kilometers on bicycles, and it raises money strictly to send kids to camp. And so last year, I think they raised a touch over $100,000. All that money goes to send kids to camp. We sponsored about 400, touch over 400 kids in part or whole. But we work with parents too. If they can't pay for the whole thing, well, what can you pay?
So what's the age range then for these kids that attend summer camp?
Most of our camps are for grades 2 to 6, but then we have a large number that are junior high. We have one camp for senior high. But our senior high students, we hire about 150 volunteers and staff in the summer. And so those people we try and slide into some kind of a role there, whether it's washing dishes or, cleaning bathrooms or working in the kitchen or just playing games with the kids. There's so many opportunities for young people to do that.
So there was some controversy last year, you may remember, with the federal government's summer jobs grant program. Yeah. You had to sign the attestation. You either fall in line with what the Liberals' ideology is at that time, standing up for LGBTQ2+ rights, being pro-choice as well, with a woman's right to give an abortion, which nothing to do with a lot of businesses, but a lot of people, obviously with Christian organizations, had a problem with it. Mm-hmm. Did you sign that attestation last year?
No, we passed on that last year, and it was about a $35,000 hit on our budget, but part of the thing is and I think I mentioned this last year, was we shouldn't expect that money. We appreciate it. We appreciate the government seeing
But you
the
don't
value.
rely on it solely then, right?
But well, we budgeted for it because we figured we were going to get it. So it was a little bit of a hit for us, but it was tough. The reason why we didn't get it, but you know what? Some of our people stepped up and really helped us out. Some generous people, and so we were able to cover that shortfall because of some donations of a few. And so this year we've applied again, and
they've toned it down, right?
Yeah, they've toned it right down. I think that
there's a lot of backlash from Canadians.
Maybe some common sense kind of prevailed, and I mean, and we appreciate it. Like we really do. We get to hire some really quality young people. I say this over and over, when we run our programs, we can have a good camp if we have good staff, but we can have great camps if we hire great staff. And so that's our bar. We're trying to hire great staff, and allowing us to pay them helps us with that as well.
So
most of our staff are volunteers. So.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Okay, that's tremendous. So John, how do parents register their children for these wonderful camps?
Online, www.sabc.ca. So, and there's a registration process there. If you have any problems with that, or you need help, just phone our office and we'll help you. Love to have your kids in.
John Gartley, who's the Executive Director for Southern Alberta Bible Camp, thanks a lot for joining me in studio today.
No problem. Thank you.
Faith organizations in Canada have long enjoyed charitable tax status, largely because our governments have recognized the public benefit associated with promoting religion and its principles. But a special Senate committee has been studying how to modernize Canadian charity law. Some groups are concerned changes could be on the horizon that might adversely affect religious charities. Joining me now via Skype from Waterloo, Ontario is Reverend John Pello, CEO of CCCC, the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. John, welcome to Bridge City News.
Well, thank you very much, Hal. Glad to have this opportunity to talk with you.
Now, John, you made a presentation to the Special Senate Committee on the charitable sector recently, asking them to affirm advancing religion as a charitable purpose with significant public benefit to Canadian society. Why did you decide to make this presentation?
Well, there were two things going on. The first is that there have been a lot of calls for advancing religion to be eliminated in Canada as a charitable purpose. So we have the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada, we have the BC Humanist Association, and lots of others. Lawyer activists, legal activists have been calling for this for some time. And we just thought, you know what, it's timely that we go on record demonstrating that we don't have to apologize saying it's just interior spiritual benefits, but we actually benefit the entire society of Canada. The most atheistic person in Canada benefits because of religion. But the second reason was that the BC Humanist Association did make a specific recommendation to this committee that they should consider recommending taking away charitable status for religious charities. And that's the two reasons. Those are the ones that we were responding to. And we felt it was important to get it on the record, the wealth of academic level research around the world that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the many, many, many benefits of advancing religion.
So, John, bottom line is, let me ask you, how well was this received?
It seems to have been received very well. The committee, apparently their heads were nodding as I was speaking. They were intrigued by the report that was submitted, the written report that is available to the public. And they asked me to come in to speak more about it. So I think that was a very positive step. The surprise was they really had no questions, which left me feeling, were they engaged? However, knowledgeable people have said that yes, the fact that there were no questions means there's nothing I said that they want to challenge, and that the topic itself to them is apparently not controversial. So those are very good signs for us.
That is very good news, absolutely. Now, we've seen some court rulings, such as the TWU Law School case, where religious rights seemed to fall to the bottom of the pile. There was a question and answer time afterward with senators. Was there a tone aimed at maybe discrediting religion as having a public benefit at all?
No, there was no hint of that. They asked some questions about rural charities such as churches and where they get help from, things like that, but not related to the topic. And it was actually a very respectful, a very good hearing.
Now, there are about 32,000 religious charities in Canada, which makes up about 40% of all charities in Canada. If charitable tax status is removed, how would this really impact all faiths, religions across the country?
Well, the impact, I think, would surprise some people. People give to their churches not for the tax benefit, but because they want to give to their churches. So the churches may be impacted to a degree, but religious people give much more to secular charities than secular people do. And if we don't have as much money left over because we paid more tax, we're going to support our religious charities. We're not going to support the secular charities likely as much. It's the secular charities actually that are the most concerned, from what I hear and what they tell me. They are the ones that are most concerned about religion losing its charitable status, because they know that their big donors are people who attend a place of worship regularly. So and then the other thing, we've done a study that has looked at churches and it's looked at the economic benefit, social economic benefit, and they put a dollar value to it. The study has been replicated in various places, but the nutshell is for every dollar that a charity spends, it puts $4.50 of value into its community. And when you compare that value to the lost tax revenue, through the income tax support, through sales tax they don't collect, and municipal property taxes, guess what? Canadian taxpayers get a 12 times return on investment for every dollar of tax that is lost or not collected because of a religious charity. So for them, if it can put money into the federal coffers, say religious donors are going to pay more tax, but at the same time, if they want the same benefits to the secular society, it's a $12 for every dollar they take in, they're going to have to spend $12 more.
But John, if the government was to remove the tax-exempt status of religious organizations, would it mean billions more of tax revenue for a debt-ridden government?
Yes, it would. So if you're looking only in the short term, there would be extra dollars coming into the coffers. But if you're looking long term at the social economic benefits that are provided to the community, whether you're religious or not, that is in jeopardy. And that's why we went to this committee, because that message, nobody knows that message. The researchers know it, but it hasn't had broad public play. So we want to get it on the record in an official government document that advancing religion provides tremendous public benefits, whether you are religious or not. That's our key message.
Let me ask you, is there also a need to close some loopholes to prevent certain groups from getting charitable tax status?
I don't know if I would call them loopholes. That sounds nefarious, but there are organizations. We're not allowed to do things that are against the law. Okay, so we do have hate laws, and so, but we already have protection for those in place. We don't need to. For instance, the government introduced a values test with the Canada Summer Jobs issue, and there are people who are saying that a values test should also be applied to charities. And what they're trying to do is to weed out those who have unpopular views. There's a difference between unpopular view and hate speech. And once you go as a society saying we're going to use a values test, then the question is whose values? So right now we have a government of one stripe in place, and they may like a values test. However, should they be defeated and another government of a different ideology come in, now we're going by their values. This is not a good place to be.
Yeah, we talked to a lot of Christian groups. John, that had a problem with that attestation in regards to the Summer Jobs Grant Program. Do you agree with abortion, a woman's right to choose? I mean, you know, or you're not going to receive funding for your landscaping business. So a lot of business owners, Christian and even not Christian, had a problem with that.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole thing was premised on something that is actually faulty, because we don't have a right to abortion. That's a whole other topic, and it'll take us off. But there are people who believe we do, and they happen to be in power.
So how does the CRA go about determining who does or does not qualify as a religious charitable organization?
Well, there are tests that they have to do. So there has to be, you know, they get all kinds of, I would call them really wacky applications. So they're looking for, is there a God or a higher power or something? Is there a sort of a coherent doctrine to it? So we have the Bible and there's the Quran and so on. So they're looking for, are there evidence? Is it a communal thing? Does it bring a community together? CRA pays a lot of attention to legal precedents. That's how they have to decide. Everything goes back to court cases and what judges have said. So it's not always easy. seems to be working okay so far.
So how does the CRA define what exactly provides a public benefit? I mean, you talked about a sense of community coming together. What else?
Yes. Okay. What they're looking at is that it's not what's called a private benefit. So if you have a charity set up to support a particular family, that's not public, that's a private benefit. So they're looking at, do you actually engage with the public? Are people welcome to take part? Do you serve a broad enough segment? Now, you might say, we exist for to have a shelter for abused women, for example. So it's a limited population, but you haven't restricted it to this person or that person. So that's public. There was a famous case of a group of nuns in the UK who just got together and their entire life was just praying for the country. That was not deemed to be a public benefit. They didn't actually, they didn't engage with anybody. They were just in there all by themselves praying, and that was the support, the total of it. So it needs to benefit a significantly large part of the population, that it is not a personal benefit to someone else.
But when two or more gather in his name and they pray, there's a huge benefit there, you bet.
Oh, the spiritual side, we would say, oh, absolutely, that's a very powerful form of prayer. The government doesn't accept that.
No, right. Now, some may ask, how do religious activities benefit non-religious people, John?
Oh, in many ways. For instance, anytime a secular person goes to a secular charity, most of the support they're receiving came from religious people who learned how to be generous and gracious in their places of worship. When the community programming, there was a study done here in Ontario of 46 churches, and they discovered that the non-religious people in the community were 4.5 times more likely to use their outreach programs than the church members were themselves. When we think about, if you go to the very abstract level, that just the fact that there is religion, that the freedom of religion is what's called a prototypical right. So the freedom of the press, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of speech, all of those freedoms come out of the freedom of religion. And so they benefit from that. And freedom of religion, former Chief Justice Dixon of the Supreme Court of Canada said it's prototypical, and it's essential to to a liberal democracy that you have this there. Now, other ways that they benefit is that it's been documented many, many times that people who attend a place of worship once a week or more are less depressive, they are less sick, they're drawing on fewer resources, they are more productive in society, higher educational, there's all these things that a secular person still benefits because the quality of the neighborhood is more vibrant, it's better. So they actually benefit in like really many different ways.
So which types of religious groups are potentially at risk of losing their charitable status? Your thoughts?
Well, we'd have to see what comes forward. I know that there's a push that if you don't agree on issues of sexuality and gender, abortion, for example, there is a very strong push to take the charitable status away. They'll say, okay, you can have your beliefs, but we don't have to support you. So that's probably the most realistic scenario, rather than pulling it away from everybody. It would be more on, are you in line with so-called Canadian values? The ones that would be probably hurt the most if they took religion away would be evangelism ministries. Compassion ministries qualify under other heads. Local churches are going to see some fall off, but people will support their local church. But the pure evangelism ministries, they're the ones that really struggle in other parts of the world where advancing religion is not charitable.
John, we've got the fall election coming up here in Canada. Where are we at now when it comes to faith-based organizations potentially getting involved in politics?
Wow, things have changed just recently, Al, with a court ruling that took place. We still cannot be partisans. We can't say vote for this party or candidate or that one. So we can't be partisan. But there used to be a cap of about 10% that what we charity could put towards political activity. So we can that's been taken away. So when the election comes up, in the election period, churches and Christian ministries are free to talk as much as they want about issues that are in the political world. They just need to be tied to their charitable purpose. So, for instance, a church pastor would be able to preach as often as they want. If, say, abortion were an election issue, they would be able to preach as much as they want on the topic of life and abortion. They just couldn't say, and so vote for. That's still not changed. But this has really opened the door, and that's why, for example, the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada, just a few weeks ago, has come out and said that we should take away the status, because now all these churches can go out and proclaim as much as they want. They're using that court ruling against us, wanting to shut us down.
Now, with the track record of our current Liberal government, is it possible that maybe pro-life organizations will be losing their charitable tax status?
The current government does not seem to recognize the difference between, say, a right to life group, which is political advocacy, and they're the ones with the placards and so forth. They don't seem to recognize the difference between that and a crisis pregnancy center. I think that is, the one is not charitable, and the pregnancy centers are charitable. And I think there's this confusion out there as to what exactly is a pregnancy center. I think they're under a lot of fire for things that they actually don't do. So they would be seriously at risk. I think if there's a second mandate, I can't get too political myself, but if there were a second mandate, given the trajectory that we're on, that would not be a surprising development.
Reverend John Pello, CEO of CCCC, the Canadian Council of Christian Charities, thanks a lot for joining me today from Waterloo, Ontario.
You're very welcome. Thank you. God bless.
You too. On behalf of all of us here at PCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.